forecast of $29.1 trillion. That's the current one. Now, under the Clinton, if nothing else changes, by 2026, that is what will happen. $29.1 trillion. Under Mrs. Clinton, her plan announced, well, it might have to be adjusted for what we've heard today, but it goes to $29.6 trillion. Under the Donald Trump plan, $39.5 trillion. So according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, the Trump plan dramatically adds to the deficit. Marc Goldwein is the Senior Vice President at the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget who came up with these forecasts. And Marc, I understand and I accept you got new figures from Monday from Mr. Trump with his higher tax brackets, and you've heard from Mrs. Clinton. But have you heard anything that substantially alters your view that the Trump plan dramatically adds to the deficit? And is that insignificant?
Well, we previously estimated the Trump plan would add about $11.5 trillion to the deficit. Maybe it's a few trillion lower now, but we still think it's going to have trillions of dollars of cost. And we still think that Secretary Clinton's plan is going to basically be neutral, only add to the debt what is already projected under current law, plus a couple $100 billion.
Right, and if we focus on Clinton's plan for the second, to make it pretty much fiscally neutral, she's paying for her infrastructure spending by what? The higher taxes on the rich, and by the by charging corporations more to bring the tax back.
That's exactly right. Clinton has a lot of new spending, and she pays for it almost entirely with a number of taxes on the rich and with a number of taxes on U.S. businesses.
But what about her increased, not just infrastructure, but the extra credit she's giving, whether it's to working families or education or all the other things that she's added into what the Republicans are saying is a tax and spend traditional Democrat plan?
Well, Secretary Clinton does have some tax breaks, but many of them are really just another form of spending. What's the difference if the government writes you a check or writes you a tax break? There's one new one today. She says she wants to expand the child tax credit. That might add to our costs a little bit, but won't change the underlying story.
The underlying story of Donald Trump's is, of course, that this big rewriting of the tax code de facto to reduce tax brackets, eliminate certain taxes. Even though they accept there will be an increase in the deficit, they point out it will have a dramatically stimulative effect on the economy.
Look, we've looked at how much it would take for Donald Trump to balance the budget with his plan. He'd need 10% annual growth for 10 years. The modern U.S. record for any 10-year period is 5%. Our projections are 2%. So this is ridiculous levels of growth. It's just not going to happen.
You say it's not going to happen, but he will point to the Reagan era where, I agree, deficits did rise, but there was an element of growth in the economy that had not been seen before. And although there are some criticisms of the trickle-down economics, there's a large body of opinion that believe that was the engine of growth that took the economy forward.
I don't want to dismiss tax reform. Tax reform can certainly help growth. But in the Reagan era, we had 3.5% growth, sometimes 2.5%. We never had 10% growth, and we never will have 10% growth for any sustained period of time. So it's going to take more than just growth to make these numbers add up.
And just briefly and finally, just to be clear about this, because, I want to be clear, your organization's position on this in terms of partisanship, so that, because I can feel viewers about to write, they're tweeting me even as we speak. Make it clear where you stand.
We are completely nonpartisan. We like lower spending. We like enough tax revenue to pay for it. Sometimes we agree with Republicans, sometimes with Democrats. Our board is mixed about 50-50. We don't have a dog in this fight. We just want a fiscally responsible government.
Sir, thank you very much. We'll talk to you more as we go through this. Now, it's very difficult